Minutes before 7 here on Morning Live. Yesterday, Dr. Nzimande, the South African Communist Party General Secretary and also the Minister of Higher Education, addressed the COSATU Central Committee meeting where he touched on several very topical issues. We've invited him to join us just to unpack a couple of those issues. Minister, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Thanks for inviting me.
It's an absolute pleasure. You were on fire yesterday. You sent Twitter going crazy of some of the things you were saying. You were clearly quite angry yesterday.
No, not at all. I wasn't angry.
You weren't angry?
No, I was just touching. It's a message of the SACP to a very important gathering, you know, which is like a mid-term congress of our ally, the Congress of South African Trade Unions. And it was important that we touch on important things because given the many challenges that we face as a country at the moment, workers have a very important role to play. And wrong things that are happening, workers have to stand up. If they don't, we're actually all in trouble. So that was the message we were trying to get across, and also to say that the relationship between the SACP and COSATU in particular, well, and workers in general, it's even more important at this point in time. Because workers played a very crucial role historically in our country. In the struggle against apartheid, they were at the forefront. And also they've been in many ways in the forefront in the struggle to reconstruct and build a new and a better South Africa.
Yeah. I mean, touching on the workers is exactly what this is all about. It's going to happen for the next 4 days. But I think when I mean the reference to you being almost showing a bit of frustration and a bit of anger was towards our president. And I mean, you could see from some of the members already as they walked in singing songs, Zuma is Tsamaye, or have you heard the good news, Zuma is going, which is really showing where the unions are standing at this point and the fact that they really do want President Jacob Zuma to go.
Well, I've got nothing personal against the president. We have worked together now for more than 2 decades. The issue that we are worried about is actually the one that has been referred to as state capture.
Yeah.
That we have got parasitic networks and particular families that have actually captured the state. In so many ways, they are actually looting the state and have got connections inside government, inside our own movement, and that it's very important that we stand up and defeat this thing and roll it back, because otherwise all what we fought for, as well as hundreds of thousands of other South Africans who sacrificed so much, all their sacrifices would actually be in vain. You know, if you say I was angry, well, maybe to a certain extent, because we never really struggled in this country to give our country over to a Gupta family that has just like become licensed, you know. If you look at the emails, for instance, if half of those emails are true that actually came out in the newspapers on Sunday, we're deeply in trouble, and we're saying we actually have to stand up. I do not want to be part of a generation that, you know, future generations will spit at my grave and said, why was the Communist Party quiet when certain things were actually going wrong? Yeah. That was the message. And also to say to workers, look, we are at ESCOM, you are at Transnet, we are at SAA, you are organized there. Why are you keeping quiet? Maybe that was part of the frustration the Communist Party was saying. Why are some of these unions very quiet and not standing up to say, no, this shall not be allowed to happen? Because it's the future of our children that is actually at stake.
What pushed you to this level? Because the SSEP has been quiet. This has been going on for quite some time. These findings, these allegations, these rumors of the Gupta control, I mean, this goes back many, many years. We're finding that you're very, very vocal now. Is it because December's around the corner? Or what was it that pushed you to this level now?
Not at all. It's already a couple of years ago that we started raising this as the SACP. It's not only that it's something that we are actually raising now. It's possible that earlier, maybe 5-6 years ago, we were not aware of what was going on. If we were, we would actually have raised it. If you remember, the Communist Party have been very consistent in raising things that are actually going wrong. At some stage, there is a family known as the Cable family, which was actually developing some very problematic relationships with some of us in the liberation movement. The Communist Party stood up and actually raised that thing, because the main message really is that our country is not for sale. You know, blood was spilled, people died, people suffered in order that we actually build a better South Africa. So what we are saying as the SACP is that the South African people must stand up, in particular the workers, to say not in our name. These things are actually not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that was the message that we were actually putting across as the SACP, you know, that we need to defend our gains by all we have.
Do you have regrets? Because if we look back to the nomination for the second term of President Jacob Zuma, you were one of his biggest supporters and pushed him into the second term. When you look back and you think now, what's happened with, as you say, it's not that your relationship with our president is bad, but it's his circle around him and what they are doing to this country that's a problem. Do you have any regrets?
Look, there are many things we did in the past that I would not regret. For instance, we fought against privatization. We also fought against AIDS denialism of the 1990s. I would actually not regret that. I would also not regret our attempt to actually support someone that we thought would do better than some of the problems that we had. But if we had known some of the things that we know now, at that time, possibly the SACP would have behaved differently. That is how I would put it.
When we look at the NEC meeting that happened over this weekend, I mean, we look at the amount, 18 wanting President Jacob Zuma out, is the numbers that we've got, 54 in favour. I imagine you were one of the voices that were against President Jacob Zuma. What was it like there? What was the atmosphere like at the NEC?
Look, unfortunately, Leanne, I'm constrained because I'm here speaking for the Communist Party.
Indeed.
I think it would be improper for me to try and be a spokesperson for the ANC, because that's the job of the Secretary General of the ANC. The point we were making yesterday as the SACP about the ANC is that our country, South Africa, needs the ANC. But it needs an ANC that is able to lead, that is united. We are concerned that the ANC is very divided and it's factionalized and it's being contested by elements, some of whom want to use the ANC to enrich themselves. We are very concerned about that. Some people say, no, we can't talk about the ANC. We reject that with the contempt it deserves. The ANC is a broad movement that actually leads the liberation movement as a whole. We are part of that liberation movement. If it doesn't behave correctly, we have a duty to actually raise it, because we do not want to destroy the ANC. Because if the ANC gets destroyed, our country is going to suffer enormously. No matter what people say, we need a broad movement that, for instance, is able to unite in the first instance the African people as the basis on which we can build a new South African nation. You know, in many parts of the world, we normally take these things for granted. You know, ethnic divisions and tribal divisions have caused many problems in other parts of the world. The ANC has actually managed to keep the majority united. So we need the ANC. That is why we will always try our best to actually contribute towards uniting it. But those who are telling us that, who are leaders of the ANC, telling us that as allies we can't talk about the ANC, we reject that. They don't own the African National Congress. The African National Congress is a people's movement.
You speak about something called the Mbeki option. Are you saying the president must go?
Well, the SACP has taken that decision, unfortunately.
He must go.
You know, that
if a vote comes in Parliament, you would vote for him to go?
Well, the SACP is discussing that matter. That's all I'm willing to say.
Okay. I just want to touch on something. I know we're running out of time. My director's shouting at me to stop. But I need to ask you these questions. White monopoly capital. You speak about Bell Pottinger, the strategy of getting people to make a noise about all of this. I mean, this has been spoken about by so many people. Our president is speaking about it. And you're saying, no, this is fabricated. Can you elaborate
Well,
more?
the Gupta family, in trying to actually cover up its nonsense, frankly, that they are doing in this country, they hired this public relations company, which interestingly enough, by the way, used to support the likes of Margaret Thatcher, to try and come up and even coin foreign concept. The concept of white monopoly capital is not part of the language of our movement, not any component of it. To us as the SACP, monopoly capital is monopoly capital. Even if it's yellow, it's blue, it's black, or it's actually white. Because it's an attempt to try and whip up emotions in order to actually cover the looting that is actually going on. That is why, by the way, as the SACP, we welcome the fact that the ANC came out of its National Executive Committee over the weekend saying it supports the Judicial Commission of Inquiry. And the sooner that is established, the better, in order that all these shenanigans are exposed for what they are. The SACP is not a supporter of monopoly capital, but we are not going to find some easy, cheap ideological shots of white monopoly capital, something that is none, that is not in any of our documents.
Yeah. Just finally, we're wrapping. The President is expected there this morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. Is it a good idea, given what's some of the receptions he's had at previous gatherings, do you think he'd even have the opportunity to speak?
At the COSATU Central Committee, my understanding is that is the Deputy President.
Is it the Deputy President?
That's my understanding. That's what I was told yesterday.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you very much, Leanne.
It's a pleasure. Nzimande, of course, is the SACP General Secretary, also the Minister of Higher Education here in South Africa. Let's take a break. We've got more after this. Stay tuned.